Hi, I'm Jeff Kitchen. Welcome to Story Bin, Writer's Room Improv. Today we have guests Lee Ross and Monique Carmona. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves? Monique?
I live out here in Los Feliz, California, and I'm a filmmaker, writer, director. More specifically, lately, I've been focusing on the writing. I have a job that I'm starting in the fall, really excited about that, with an independent project where I'll be developing a pilot with somebody up north in wine country. So I'm really looking forward to that and seeing where that goes. And just had the pleasure of working in a mini room with one of the writers from a network show, New Amsterdam. It's a medical show, but he jumped over as showrunner and wanted to develop a new show that we got our hands on. So that was a really great experience, working with others via Zoom and seeing how the writing room can work that way. And also I'm a filmmaker. You can go to moniquecarmona.com and learn more about me. Monique, Carmona, CARMONA.com. And you can see my demo reel there, my filmmaking demo reel, and a little bit more about my background. So yeah, that's me. Excited to be here, excited to play.
And I'm Lee Ross. I live in a small arts town in Salida, Colorado, literally in the center of the square of Colorado. That's pretty much where I live, up in the mountains. And I used to be in Los Angeles, and I am a writing consultant and a strategist, and tinker with design when I'm not writing something. So that's about it.
And you're a produced writer as well.
Yes.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, I am. I've had a couple of little movies made, and both features and independent, and then a half dozen shorts that with foreign directors mostly, and went to Sundance.
I'm hoping to direct one of Lee's films.
Yeah,
That's great.
That would be wonderful. Yeah, it's up in the air still, but hopefully soon.
Let's pick a story idea. All right, number 68. Let's see what that is. A Vietnam veteran hunts a sadistic assassin who escaped from Vietnam and set up as a healer in Northern California.
I could roll with that. I mean, it's
Let's have some fun. I don't think this is about getting it right. I think it's about building story.
You know, you had me at sadistic. First of all, we're dealing with a Vietnam veteran, so clearly Jeff Bridges or somebody is having some real
Jacob Ladder moments.
Some Jacob Ladder type of, or has been battling his own health issues, and has he has some alternative medicine therapy things that he wants to explore.
Yeah, so he's in somatic therapy because he's having PTSD nightmares that are waking him up, and he's seeing pieces of things that happened with this sadistic assassin when he was in a camp in Vietnam, which sort of propels him to need to take charge, right? To do something about it. So where does he live? And is he from out of state going in? Is he in California? And how does he find this healer in Northern California?
And is he kind of like grandpa in the granny flat, or, and there are kids or grandchildren or his daughters kind of how does it become?
Or is he by
himself?
Sort of his family's left him because hasn't coped with his issues. And now I'm wondering how he would get this information. So is he a part of a, online community trying to find these people?
Yeah. Like a Nazi hunter type thing?
Well, no, I mean, for me, I'm liking more of a grounded kind of like we're starting with him and his issues and his, in his aloneness or whatever. Although, and maybe, his daughter comes by to drop off something and to check on him. and says, you know, you really need to get out.
Yeah, yeah, and a doctor appointment where we're setting up that
Yeah, the
the
memories.
antidepressants or whatever he has been taking that's from the institutions of medicine are not
Mhm.
really working,
Yeah.
and he keeps seeing him, or he keeps seeing a guy who he thinks is, you know, maybe he keeps seeing kind of like the
Yeah.
shadow of this former sadistic killer who he knew when he was in the war.
And then he is at a park or something like that, and maybe even contemplating just ending it, not sure. And he sees someone, maybe a future version of what he could be, how his life could have gone, a family playing. And someone mentions there's some really fantastic new work going on now, whether it's, you know, psilocybin or it's this or that. And have you heard of this healer in California? He changed the trajectory of my life. You know, here's his number.
Yes.
Is that too obvious? You know,
No, it seems like for the guy has to be a real healer. He's not just someone who's hiding out pretending to be one. Right.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
that's where you can get a great conflict, is where
Yeah.
this sadistic killer actually turns to our PTSD vet and is like, no, I'm really changed. I'm not that guy anymore, even though he may still be. You know, I really can heal you. Then you have to build that trust with who knows, with the lead guy having to trust this guy he's been after for years.
And you said you said he was haunted by the guy. He was seeing him here and there.
yeah, and you know, in your PTSD, you know, my father was in Vietnam, and he had PTSD and would have dreams where he was trapped in the dream. There's a name for it. What is that when you can't wake up? And
yes, and you're paralyzed sometimes.
yeah, and so we would have to wake him up, and he wasn't even on the front lines, you know, so to speak. But so this kind of thing where he's getting triggered so that the audience can see part of the backstory as we move forward. He sort of hits a low. The pills aren't working, the therapy's not working, and he gets wind of this person. But I like the idea that he doesn't find out he's a healer, even though I just said that. I'm flipping it. He goes for him to try and get him, and then he like sort of comes to the compound or wherever he's doing, and he's seeing him doing all of this work. Like he's seeing positive results, and he can't believe it. Like to have to swallow the pill that not all evil people are evil 100% of the time forever. Like that we have this duality is fascinating to me.
It makes me think of John of God, which was a healer that Oprah went to visit. And John of God made international news because he was in Brazil claiming to cure cancer, and people would fly down there and spend time and say, he has cured me and he did this therapy. And then at the same time, it had something to do with trafficking children and other dark things. But John of God is and my friend who's been dealing with her ailments for years back in LA, she had gone down several times, and it was like a spiritual community. And so maybe he's this guy is there, and he has people waiting. You know, you have to wait to go see him at the community. I don't know.
Yeah, I could see, I'm jumping forward a little bit, but I could see how when the assassin / healer finally gets with victim / veteran, this is his ultimate challenge, to heal somebody who he's wronged in the past. You know,
yes,
kind of ultimate, like, if this will prove that anything is possible, or that I can heal, you know, and it really speaks to, are you receptive enough to be healed? And is that part of the healing, the receptivity? Or and I wonder if when the Vietnam guy goes to get this assassin, if he's held captive, like, could you imagine being held captive so that you're forced to be healed? Is that even possible?
It's almost like your guru is your worst enemy at the same time.
Yeah, which speaks
Which,
to the internal struggles that we have. With
yeah,
our,
it forces the veteran to go through the stuff that's crippling him internally.
Yes, yes. So it really, for me, what's coming up is like, this is not a straight shot, like go in and get him Rambo style thing. This is more of a psychological, fractured coming together to assimilate. Maybe at the end we find out the sadistic assassin wasn't even really there. A bit of a beautiful mind thing, but that's way beyond where I can piece together right now. But this idea,
So this would be an elderly Vietnamese man or woman who is doing genuine healing work, and yet who fought for the Viet Cong or the North Vietnamese army as an
You
assassin in
could
the
go
war.
that way. I was thinking it's another white guy who was, it's like it's another American guy who was in a different battalion. But rumors were spreading that this one
Apocalypse Now
he's sadistic, he's evil, and not necessarily, but the flipping it over to Viet Cong and someone who emigrated back over or came over to America with some kind of anchor baby later on, and is doing these, and is our lead guy dealing with suppressed memories, like things are coming up that he had no recollection of, maybe coming back to haunt him later. I remember now. I remember you not only did you tie these people up, you did, or whatever it was that they're coming back.
Does he feel compelled to, do we go there? And at first, this Vietnam veteran is, before I was in the war, my whole family, I come from a long line of healers. These wars, they change us. This was not something I woke up and decided to do as a child. And you come to our country and you destroy our country, and we have to make these choices.
Right, and it drives us crazy too.
It drives us crazy, but underneath it all, this is who I am. And I'm going to invite you to find out who you really are outside of this resentment. But just when we think Vietnam dude is, like I'm buying this, we get wind that he's holding people captive in this compound of Healy. And there is a wing in which there is some sex trafficking, or there is some nefarious stuff going on. And as Lee said, bits and memories are coming up of the style of hostility and the style of torture that this Vietnam guy did in the past. He, sets on a path to find out more on the land that they're on, and finds and sets people free. And in setting them free, there's this final count, the showdown between the assassin and our lead. Anyone?
So then, just as our veteran gets to the most vulnerable kind of breaking point in The Cure, and he's like, you're right, I was screwed up.
Yes.
I was prejudiced against you, all that stuff. I really can go through this now.
Just that,
then he discovers that it's all,
that there is another layer,
a con or something.
Well, and I think the question is, when someone does something nefarious, does it wipe out the good that they do? Because what if, Hollywood likes black and white, we're trying to write more nuanced things. What if he is a healer and he's also a fucked up dude? And what is the takeaway from that? That literally, if you're harming others, it doesn't matter how much healing you do, you're harming others. I'm not sure,
or
themes, but
there's also this idea of like, it's a very high level, not a hidden, has set up as a well-known, well-renowned healer, and he is slowly luring people who did him wrong, or his family wrong, from the government. So you have government officials from the Vietnam War who are still around, who are being dropping dead after visiting this healer ashram place, and and you're like, what's he up to? How does he get these government people to, why are they dropping dead and not just.
This reminds me of your feature with the cabin, with the rich guy, Lee. So what if Vietnam veteran gets there and he finds out that everyone there who's staying there, who's getting healed, has been in Vietnam, has been over there around that time, or there's this whole section of people, and he comes to find out like he's getting us all here together to reenact, kind of like a dragon with a tattoo, to reenact this torture scenario. And so he gets to go back into the cave and slay the dragon once again.
This is unfinished business then.
This is, yes, I'm getting
There's your title.
Unfinished business.
Yeah.
Good. Liam Neeson, unfinished business.
Yeah,
There it is.
this exactly. He's going back in, and oh man, so he gets to redo this thing, and at the end we get to decide, is he going to end this guy, or is he gonna free him and himself of the torture of torture?
Yes, he, there's always that moment traditionally, I guess, where finally the sadistic Viet Cong, or, finally has our vet in the chair, and is going to give him the eye drops that, catapult you into this altered state, but it may fix you.
Yes. You have to go through this chasm.
Yes, and you can't, you're strapped down, but then once the eye drops hit, where did the straps go? I can stand up, I can move around.
Close up on the pupils, requiem for a
Yes.
Boom. Yeah, but I like this idea of this final battle. What's happened though, if we go back to, going from 1 into 2, and he's gone on this journey to California, if I'm a Vietnam vet, which I'm not, I just want to say for the record, I'm going to go loaded. I'm going to go with some gear. I'm going to gotta get into it. You know what I mean? I'm going to kind of recreate, like, if I could go back one more time, I'd do it right. There's more technology now. Who do I bring along for the ride? Are there any B characters here? Is my daughter
like a sniper who's watching you from a half-mile away or something?
Yeah, I mean the Vietnam vet, is he taking, just to backtrack all the way, because we get to do that today, and every day that we write, but like, is his daughter following him, and like, this kind of tomboy type girl who's been trying to connect with her father, and she decides to follow him in, and they work together to, and then she gets hurt, and it's like,
or she just is taking her it's not the vet who hears about it. It's the daughter who says, "This guy's incredible. I'm taking you."
Yes, she's the one who journeys with him. I love
with
that.
him,
that
and then
part.
you've got your 40-something lead actress who is all positive, and then something happens, and then he has to find her in the labyrinth of wherever. And
that's definitely Liam Neeson going in for his but no, if she goes and she says, like, "Look, Dad, I want you to come with me. I got us 2 flights. This guy's incredible." And so we don't find out that he's the Vietnam dude. We've seen the flashbacks, we've seen the PTSD, we've seen murmurings of who he is. And then he gets into this thing, and this healer comes out, and it's dude.
It's him. It's the guy.
Dude.
Right. Now, you got to bear in mind that it's what you figure 72 at the latest, and it's now 22. So the person's 50 years older. Yeah, 50 years older.
I mean, a lot of the time you can, when you're dealing with Vietnam versus other veteran periods, Gulf veterans, the early Gulf, early, most of those guys are now, a lot of the early Gulf guys are around 60 now.
Wow. Yeah.
So when you go back to the very first incursions versus looking at, my dad was a reserve in the Korean War. And he's 84 now. So, when you're looking at kind of those epochs of time, a Vietnam vet today is going to be around 80 or very, elderly.
That's true.
Yeah, very elderly versus a younger, whether you choose a different war.
Unless we do a
Unless
period piece.
unless you set the movie 20, 30 years in the past.
Yeah.
Yes, you do a period piece. Yes.
Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
1989 kind of situation, or not,
Right.
whatever
It's
might
mid
be
90s.
interesting.
It's early internet,
Yeah.
very early. It's still
And there's no
dial-up.
cell phones, there aren't
Yeah.
cameras everywhere, so it's a
Right.
different
Right.
type of
He
arrangement.
Yes, I
can't
like
look
that.
up this guy online to see what he looks like. He's trusting his daughter.
Right. And then
You
he
know.
arrives and with the daughter, and there's the black guy or some other guy from his outfit who's like, I'm having breakthroughs.
Yes.
Oh my God, we're doing playback therapy. We're gonna role play this shit
Yeah.
on this thing that's been helping us.
The other thing that it reminds me of in an interesting way, I don't know if this dovetails into what we're talking about, but it could for the very ending, is in the movie Gandhi, when Gandhi has been fasting and he's almost dead from fasting. And this guy with the pockmarked face comes up and says, "Eat, I won't have your blood on my hands. They took my son and bashed his brains out against the wall." And Gandhi says, "I can show you a way out of hell." He says, "Find a little boy, only make sure he's a Muslim and raise him as your own and raise him as a Muslim." And the guy really gets it.
So you're saying
that kind of like you have to like embrace your enemy to really heal yourself. If he ends up coming away with a little Vietnamese girl to raise, I don't know. But
but then we're dealing with, like this whole white savior bullshit.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
But
is there a way in which he can see beyond the destructive nature of the person he's fighting,
right?
To not so much spare that person, but spare himself?
Yes, spare all of us,
murder
right?
again or something.
Spare all of us.
You think of it's like when I think of the ending of The Vanishing, the original foreign, The Vanishing, and he says, if you want to know what happened to her, you have to let me put you under and you'll find out. And maybe it's something along those lines. You have to trust me and let me, you'll find out how to be healed by
the assassin.
Yes, by the assassin. Yeah, maybe it's this vet is I will never let you touch me. I will never let you.
Yes, and I love that he takes this medicine and he becomes the assassin. They switch places, almost in this kind of like, I've done mushrooms. Anyone?
Yeah, we have. Yes.
Oh,
Jeff. Oh.
And so this idea that, it's very much Matrix, but it's very much like we are all saints and sinners, and this idea that when maybe they both look at the daughter, if the daughter's still in here, that she sort of represents all children, or this sort of rainbow of children from everywhere, and then he comes back. I don't know. I feel like, so many of us watch these revenge movies that seem like a revenge movie, or seem like, and for us to sort of evolve the conversation, but still make it, primal, make it satisfying. I don't know, like at the end, it's like, okay, and then we're going to walk away and catch you for the next war, bro. Like, how are we perhaps when the assassin, if we did this sort of melding of persona and identity, that the assassin becomes a Vietnam vet and he understands his trauma, he sort of gets wind of that level. But I mean, let's face it, the assassin's seen death and, families burned to a crisp, but he understands something so acutely that he goes to take his own life, and the Vietnam vet's like, no, you've got to live with this. Like, I've got to live with this. We both have to live with this. We both, you know, me killing you is the same as you suiciding. You know, it's like we get to be where our feet are. We get to let this go for the sake of what's possible. I don't know, because it's like, you know, you want it to be a preachy movie, or do you want it to be this kind of entertaining look at, you know, what war does and what we're capable of, but also I think what we're capable of in the negative, but also what we are capable of when we are healed. I mean, we've all been through trauma.
And I worked with a group of veterans. I was writing a script with one of them, but they created a thing where they took Vietnam veterans back to Vietnam to meet their former enemies in a spirit of reconciliation.
Whoa.
So they made a documentary in the Hanoi Hilton with different people. And there were some people who got a real lot out of it. And there was some people who were like, I don't ever want to see their faces again, ever. Like some people were really into it. Some people didn't want to even begin to do it.
That would be amazing if that was the therapy at this place. You know, bringing that kind of that aspect from the doc into this, where they all have to sit around in this kind of talking circle and see one another. But I think too, I love this nefarious element that there's something else going on. I mean, this is, you know, it says here, set up as a healer in Northern California. We get to spin that on its ass a couple of times. You know,
yeah, and there could still be people in, you know, bamboo tiger cages in the water, like from the old days, that he's got.
Like a Truman thing, like a Truman show where he sort of set it up for you to go through the experience, or literally where he's doing the healing, but he's also captured. He's also capturing some people.
Well, yeah,
so this guy, this guy sees that and thinks, this motherfucker, you know, he's acting like a healer, but he's trapped people. He goes through, saves them all. And that's actually part of the game, to sort of give him his strength back, give him his agency back. Like the game with Michael Douglas, where you know, this thing is set up for you to reenact and, you know, and sort of heal yourself through going back to it. And at the very end, we've kind of earned their meeting of the minds at the very end, where the assassin and the Vietnam vet are together, sort of dissecting what war does, what's possible, and now, are you ready to heal? And then like this last piece of whether or not,
you know, a lot of the time it's I hate to say it, but we all know with Hollywood, it's the simple story that is the one that the audience can kind of go with.
I agree.
So I you know, I like the idea that this sadistic assassin is slowly attracting former killers of his people. And then he, you know, one at a time, they are gone, or, you know, and it's up to our vet to, you know, realize that, you know, he has to stop, you know, warn even, you know, let your fellow who's left in my platoon front, you know, who are the four guys, you can't go to this place, don't go. And
so that's prior, like trying to stop them.
Stop them from going. Don't
and
trust.
Then he can't stop someone, so he's got to go in. But you know,
you know, or the other trope that, of course, would come up would be, you know, suddenly the daughter is just missing. She's gone. She's like, we're in the community or in this facility place where, where's my daughter? She's suddenly, you know, she's been having a great time. She's been having a healing time, and now she's missing. And then I have to find, where are they keeping the women or the whatever it is, and without it getting, you know, too complicated in some ways. It's
not to you know, it's got to be propulsive for the lead, but I like this idea of the daughter saying, you know, I'm going out to California. This is a period piece. There's this wonderful guy. He's doing this wonderful work, and he doesn't go. And then he gets wind that his daughter is missing. And then he goes and he finds out it's this dude, and this dude has been aiming to get this motherfucker to come
Right.
out.
That's it. That's the whole thing, is to lure the
And so he has lured him by getting his daughter to come. Now he's out there, and we've already seen maybe shards of this guy in the dreams, or in the opening sequence. We can see that final, that what happened in Vietnam. And then here he is, and where's my fucking daughter? And I got to get her first, but after that, I am coming for you.
Well, it's all a mousetrap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, that makes the assassin, Ben Kingsley, whatever. Well, he's Asian, so we won't be doing that. But
this is
more of a lore situation. But how do you make that propulsive? I guess when your daughter goes, you have to. This is what's great. If you're a recluse, if you're what's the word when you can't leave your home?
Agoraphobic.
Yeah, something like that from the trauma. And you have to bust through that trauma, because the only thing that's bigger than that is your love for your daughter.
Right.
That's going to be propulsive enough. The lead's gonna have to make a choice that's going to set him off. If we're doing the patriarchal hero's journey, we're going to set him off. I mean, with anyone, I think too, we change, go in that direction.
Also, phishing scams and late 90s, whether it was in Nigeria or one of these, the way that scams were happening on the web back then, to lure people, to get them to go somewhere, do something.
Yeah.
They, for that time, maybe she also, I don't know.
Well, I like the idea of, like, before he even gets to California, just getting to his daughter's house is like a fucking, a big deal for him.
Right. It's a mission.
It's a mission just to get to his daughter's house to find out,
Right. He has to get in black paint and like crawl through the shadows to get to her house.
Do you imagine being at the daughter's house and you're like, she's gone to this healer, and he looks on the wall and there's this bit of an altar, if you will, to this person she's been following or hearing about. And there's images of, and it's like, flash photography of his memories of this trauma, because, when you have trauma like that, it comes in these images, these pieces, and he's looking at the guy, and the next thing you know, plane landing in California,
Yeah.
I think too, maybe he does make some calls. Does he go in alone? If you're a Vietnam vet, do you go in alone to get your daughter? Do you have time to get backup?
Right. Or you call that one platoon, the one person you're still in touch with, who's like, I can't do it alone. I can't. I just, I can pay for you to go.
And do you recon the place before you actually enter it?
The thing is, with the daughter, taking clock of the daughter, he may want to go in there and just get her. And then the partner's like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. We're going to get your daughter. We're going to kill this motherfucker. And we're going to prevent hundreds of God knows what he's done, and then that could be the thing where they go, and she turns around. She's like, Dad, meet, Sir, da, 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 da. And she's fine.
Yeah, she's fine. Yeah.
She doesn't know.
It was all
But she's the cheese in the mousetrap too.
Yes, but she doesn't know, and she's fine. And she doesn't believe that this is him. This is him.
Right.
All those years you've been waking me up in the middle of the night because I couldn't sleep. This is him. Dad, I think, have you been taking your meds? This whole.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
The other thing is that if this takes place like in 1981 or something like that, then
81. Then she'd be a child.
That's true. Well, no, he could have had a child before he went to Vietnam.
True. So go
But
talk to
then
me about
this
that era.
person would be immediate past history that this person is really trying to get rid of the rest of the people that he didn't finish in Vietnam.
Oh, you mean like right? I see.
Yeah, it's a few years ago, and he looks much the same, and everybody's
I see what
more
you're
capable.
saying. Yeah. I kind of like a little bit of time in between, like they've just been festering on it, like they've just been, I mean, is it this nemesis thing where you were the only one out of all of them that didn't, wouldn't die? or
Yeah, or the other thing is that sometimes it was all not smoke and mirrors, but it was mythic, the level of this sadistic assassin in Vietnam. No one had really seen him. He always wore things to keep his
Oh.
identity covered, and it was just maybe one
Tattoo,
birthmark
yeah.
or thing that rumor had it that he has this birthmark that you can't miss if he takes his shirt off or something, and somehow it's revealed to our Vietnam vet, this is the guy because of the tattoo or the thing, because he had never seen him.
Yes.
That's tricky though, because if he's flashing back on the guy, it
Abusing
makes
him.
it harder for him to recognize it or recognize him in his daughter's shrine. Or
Well, then that gets washed away. He sees the shrine. Who's this motherfucker? Goes out there and we see the same tattoo. I mean, that's been done a million times, which is fine. And
Yeah,
it does, all of this has, right? Like, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that, but like, it does beget the question of, do we want to play that edge of, is it him or isn't it him? Am I delusional?
right.
I do think that there's something to be said about when we hold on to our resentments so much, they do start to, whack our perceptions. So I like that idea, Lee, but I love the idea of getting there and the daughter's like, oh, Dad, you made it. I can't wait for you to meet everyone.
Right. That would trip him out, because that really only points the finger at his mental illness.
Yeah. But then there's gotta be a larger, this, like you said, Jeff, he's come to sort of collect. He's, what's due, this assassin. I mean, if you're an assassin, do you like, it's funny because I feel like movies are changing now. It's like, really? We're just like, that's all I want to do is go and kill. How do we make that assassin more interesting, more multidimensional or?
Well, the war was intensely corrupt and there was a whole lot of crooked shit going down and really evil people on the American side who did hideous things. And so someone could be quite motivated and have good reason to do this stuff and kind of be driven insane, seeing their daughter raped and murdered and all these things.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you see me as the assassin. I'm a father. You've got your daughter here. I don't have my daughter. You killed my daughter. Whoop, 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 whoop. You killed my daughter.
Yeah.
And the roles change. You're the assassin.
Yeah. And that reminds me of something I was thinking about earlier in the story, that as you get down to the bottom of the kind of psychedelic healing or whatever, that you see in yourself the same kind of sadistic assassin in yourself that person has in them.
I love that. I'm here for that. I'm here for that. And I'm here for who is, going back to who is in a war that didn't need to happen. I'll be the first, but no one wins. No one wins.
Yeah.
Right.
When the news mainstream and big, when the John of God stuff flipped and it was revealed that this guy is doing some nasty shit, it freaked so many people out who had said, well, my cancer was cured by this guy, or, it had a lot to do with faith healing as well. But
you mean placebo faith healing? You mean like believing so much that you're healed, that you're healed?
Well, that was the fine line with the kind of, because there have been so many, bullshit faith healing people exposed, but John of God was, for a number of years, people were in LA were really like, I'm going down. I'm booking my flight.
Because if you have cancer and you test clean after that, then you test clean, like a hospital can show, yeah, you don't have cancer anymore.
Yeah.
If you still have it, then you're going to die from it pretty soon. It's not, it has to really work if it's going to be an effective illusion. Yeah,
I mean, I can only really speak from knowing my friend Monet, who had gone down to see him 2 times. And she said, sometimes you had to wait weeks at the compound to see him.
Amazing.
You had to just wait.
Amazing.
So,
Just
and then someone
amazing.
would come and go, he's ready to see you, and so,
I mean, talk about building up, a brand
yeah,
and the hype and the sort of, it's like people will wait in line for sneakers for $50,000, and they'll also go down to South America for a healing. And, it's just this, how crazy can it be? It can be this crazy.
yeah.
But at least you feel for the victims, because when you're sick and, it's life or death, you can have compassion for people going down there. But as that relates to our film that we're, clearly going to win next year's Oscar, let's not go to the Oscars.
Well, yeah, it's just funny to think about all these previous movies where you see veterans or they're still in the internment camp. That's the other cliche we've seen, that
Right.
years later they're still in an internment camp somehow as a POW.
Like they make it 18 years later. Yeah. Well, yeah. So yeah, I feel like, who are the other players? I think we could tap on that a little bit. And what is the final, the final moment? And does the daughter do something in the end?
Yes.
And what does it take to jolt somebody out of a PTSD? Can it be like finishing off? Is it like killing the nightmare that's been haunting you for years? Does that free you from it? Or do you have to kind of transcend it in some kind of psychedelic way or something like that?
Well, I mean, the truth of the matter is everything's a process. We like to believe that there's, a finite way to heal the nervous system. But I think the real truth to that would be seeing him in a scene at the end in therapy, actually doing the work.
Right.
In some sort of water therapy, or in some, actually, yes, the big thing has been managed. Do we believe in instantaneous healing? Right. Or now is he like cut to and he's gardening?
Right.
And he's just like, he's outside now, at least.
Right.
He's gardening.
Or walking through the park to go to his therapy, that type of thing.
Yeah. Walking through the park, looking at the birds, watching people. His, daughter joins him with a coffee or something, and they go to therapy.
Right. And getting to know a woman, maybe you could see, maybe he's going to have a relationship, because you were saying he was seeing all the things he wanted, like a family. And
yeah. I mean, that feels a little, what dreams may come, or, not really, because that's
just like, he's starting to, they see, he's noticing somebody when they're having coffee, and that they're sort of eyeballing each other. You could see it might turn into something. It's not,
or
I wasn't
even
thinking anything more than that.
Right. No, but I like that. I like that idea that, like, in the waiting room in therapy, like there's always this woman that comes out before he goes in, and they just have a moment, and it's like, they're both doing the work.
Right.
Right. Yes, that's it. And then would you like to get a coffee?
Yes.
Right.
And that invitation to living again.
Yes.
Can we have the courage to live again after these kinds of traumas? Yeah. Stop, guys.
So do you normally do one or two, or how many do you normally cover on these?
Just one. This is about it. It's really just
seeing,
just sort of playing with it and cobbling together some aspect of a plot, but it doesn't have to be any more than this. We're just, it's just kind of, you go until, like, okay, unless you really get down to the nitty gritty, it's hard to go beyond a certain point, because there's a whole lot of stuff that you have to really sit down and do the math on. And
yeah, I'm working in a room right now, and like this, it's really the sum of the total parts, so the fun of this is throwing out an idea and then getting inspired by what Lee said, which then triggers you to say something, which, often writers, it's a lonely lot.
You're in the vacuum. Yes.
And to be able to do this, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to call you guys. We're going to break some goddamn stories and call it a day.
Yeah.
I did more in an hour with you guys, then, for television, it's different, right? So you're breaking with people all the time.
Yeah.
And with features, it's, kind of doing these beats and these moments. And I love what we've created together, these things that sort of hit a wall and kind of fall flat, and then that being part of the process, and then going into these more creative ways of talking about humanity, talking about, what we can show that that might elicit something, that might elicit some.
And this,
go on.
This podcast is intended to show people experienced storytellers grappling with a brand new idea, trying to get some traction on it and try to turn it into some kind of plot, which we very much did.
Yeah, I think it's great that you're showing people how messy it is. I think
a
lot of my friends that don't write or make films, they're not idiots. They're talented and creative in their own right, but they're sort of like, oh, you quilt, or you build this thing, but it's often this willingness to constantly, like improv, this willingness to constantly discover, pick up things, pick up treasure troves, and then just pieces of shit, and then decide which one you're gonna, hold on to. What's his name? Wow, I've just completely blanked on a very popular comedian, Truman Show, the lead.
Jim Carrey.
Yeah, Jim Carrey, says, to get to, one of my brilliant ideas, I have to go through 1,000 things. But absolutely, but the willingness to look stupid, or the willingness to humble yourself through that story mill,
Yeah, and just the way that stories morph and evolve constantly as you work them, like The Sixth Sense, which was originally a serial killer story, but it just morphed and grew and kept changing until he got to where it ended up. But it was a real journey. It didn't just fall off the truck pre-built.
Yeah, I think I had mentioned, Jeff, to you, we were speaking, and I said, I don't think I've told Monique this, but, I was back visiting my dad, and my stepmom, was like, hey, there's a box and there's some scripts, and you should go through it before we throw it all out. And lo and behold, there was this one unfinished thing that I, had pretty much just stopped working on at all from 2006. It's 15 years ago. And I had no recollection really of writing it. I kind of was like, I wrote that? Okay, yeah. And I started reading it, and I reread it. And then I was like, it literally was like a version of myself from the past had put it in a special tube and sent it to the future so I could read it now. But what's interesting to me in this conversation is that the third act was not there, and it ends up that it takes place, the third act takes place inside a intentional community. And so that was interesting, because I'm writing, right, as these past weeks and these next weeks, how do you write the compound? What are the elements that make up an intentional, Burning Man-esque, or whatever the kind of community it may be? And that was weird to return to something that you had forgotten about.
And are you finishing that? That's the one you're finishing, the one you found in the box?
I am, like, just, wake up every day and just go finish the third act. You just have 20 more pages, whatever.
Yes.
Just do it.
Yeah. And to see us talking about this compound. Yeah.
Right. Talking about, these elements. Yeah. And Jackie Chan should play,
For the record.
Yes. Like,
Jackie should play our assassin.
Yes, I was like, I haven't seen Jackie Chan play an evil 60-something, evil doctor, evil healer, former assassin. It's like, let's make Jackie Chan into like not a nice guy.
Yeah,
so rare.
Or a complex guy.
A complex father guy. Yeah,
and it makes the fact that he's a genuine healer more believable as well.
Absolutely.
But like a mentally ill healer or something like that.
Yeah,
someone who's deranged and out for vengeance, but is also genuinely healing people,
Yeah.
but is also picking off his enemies.
Yeah,
as
there was
they
a
show up.
recent cable show that I saw, an African-American healer, and I can't remember the show. Oh, was it The Leftovers? The Leftovers.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember The Leftovers?
Not really.
Sounds familiar. I'm looking it up.
No, I
It's
know it. It was,
fantastic.
yeah, a TV
And
series.
there's this guy who is a healer, but he's also, way beyond what people can imagine a healer would be in a way. And he's having to deal in the shadows
Mm.
because of who he is and what he knows. And life is a little bit more disposable because he's seeing a much larger picture about the fate of humanity. But it's very interesting to see, where are these, compounds in television, or where are these, leaders, or and how they move through the night. It doesn't have to be things that we've necessarily seen, but pieces of different things we want to kind of put in a recipe for today, where we are today, where we are today, which is kind of post-apocalyptic, but not quite yet,
Yeah. The Leftovers. I remember that show. I do remember it.
I have to plug in.
Well, Jeff, it'll be funny if anything from your story bin, someone, an executive, somebody comes back to you later on and is like, I watched the, your 8th episode of Story Bin when, can we talk about that? You never know where someone's going to circle back and go, I really like that one that you guys germinated.
Right.
Just be weird. It would be weird.
It would be
Yeah.
weird, but in this business, and then not surprising at all.
And then not so much. Yeah.
And not surprising at all. But yeah, a lot of fun. I'm glad that you're doing this.
Yeah.
When did you start?
Before Christmas.
Oh, so just
This-
recently.
Yeah. This is number 8, actually. Yes.
Lucky number 8.
But they're coming along. They're fun, and they've all been quite interesting in different ways, because it's such an interesting intersection of creative people and story ideas that it's just completely different and fun and satisfying in different ways for each one.
Yeah, I love that you're doing this. So often the writer gets caught up in the task at hand of, trying to get stuff made or trying to get stuff sold. And I personally, as a creative coach and just an artist, want to play and fulfill on things immediately.
Yeah.
And I think that we have to build that in. We get to build that into our life. Immediate gratification.
Yeah.
Or playing with that. I feel like we accomplished something today, believe it or not. Even
Yeah.
though you can also, like a Zen master, toss it in the bin, the story
Yeah.
bin.
Yeah. The story.
Absolutely. Okay, well, thank you. This was
Jeff.
really great.
Yeah, Monique,
enjoyable.
great to see you.
Yeah, really great to see you,
Interesting
Lee. I'll
journey.
give you a call.
And Jeff, look forward to your next story bin and seeing this one go out into the world. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Take care.
Okay,
Okay.
so long.
Bye.
Bye-bye.